Hi, welcome to the Expire Show organized by Science Centre Singapore, the Singapore Institute of Technology and Neo Aeronautics. Well, we have been through a couple of episodes looking at the technopreneur journey or the entrepreneurial journey of technology ventures founders. Tonight, we're going to feature another person who went through the same journey, but in a very different mode. So let us meet Mr. Lennon Tan, who is the group director or group chairman of ADERA Group, and also, more importantly, the president of Singapore Manufacturing Federation. Let's move. Hi, Lennon. Great to meet you.
Hi, Prof. Neil.
Yes.
Good evening.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
Okay. So for the sessions, what we're going to do is to have you introduce your company or your journey,
Sure.
and then we have discussion later.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I guess, do I go through the slides?
You can go through the slides. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lennon Tan, as Prof. Neil had said. I have started a business in a very atypical way, right? I guess for me, the entrepreneur inclination or the will to become an entrepreneur has always seeded me when I was young. So I was very amazed at how someone can start a business, right? So my journey started after graduation. Actually, I worked for MNC for 10 years, right? So after 10 years, it come a point of time, right? It come a point of time that you question, right? You can almost see yourself. I mean, we see our bosses in the MNC. They will just go through. My boss, for example, retired after 30 years in the company. So I can see myself doing the same thing if I were to continue the so-called my career in the MNC. So at one juncture, I was quite fortunate to be promoted to a certain position to take care of Asia Pacific role. But I then decide that I want to do something different, and that's how I started to start to think about to start my own business. Now, as a the interesting part about starting a business, especially after you work for some MNC, you think that it's easy because you see how business are. You just need to sell your products and then give good service, and they'll come back. But things are very different once you're out on your own.
Yep.
You no longer have an aura of an MNC behind you, a brand behind you. You are, because you just you just started out. You are the brand, even though you have a brand for your company, but you are the brand. So how I started was I started with distribution actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I started with distribution. So it is a business that I was familiar. So it's in more on the security side of the business. Security, not as in your alarm, your CCTV. No, these are document security, things that go on to, for example, your passport. When you cross immigration, so a passport is a very secure document. There are some brands who want to protect themselves from being counterfeited, and we have some solution to do that. So the unique part about my entrepreneurial journey is that I very much started in China straight away, because when I was working for the multinational, China was the country that gives me 30%, 50% growth year on year. So I always tell myself, if I were to start my business, I wouldn't waste time. I'll just go to where the growth,
market.
The market is big, the growth is there. So that's what I did. So I formed a company, and that's how I started and start start off as doing distribution. I mean, this is how we do that. The interesting part about this is that after I was in very early 30s, right? 32 when I started. I saved up about 300,000. I think that I should have enough money to keep it going for.
Yeah.
So little that you know that 300,000 doesn't last very far, right? Especially in the China context, you need to buy dinners, you need to buy gifts, you need to do all the marketing thing that goes in. You need to hire people, you need to have an office. So 300,000 doesn't go very far. Okay. This is when you really the spirit of entrepreneurship get tested.
The resilience. Yeah.
When you are down to your last month.
Yeah.
And you're down to your last month of expenses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't have your first big business or sizable business that can keep you going. So I remembered, what I had to do is that a customer that I've been pursuing for a long time, for almost 3 months, right? I couldn't get an appointment because this is they are high level people. So what I set appointment I couldn't see, so I waited outside his office. Okay. So for 3 weeks, right? I stayed there, and he will see me every time you go to the office, and then you give some excuses that he's busy. But finally, I got the break. You see, the last day it was almost the last 1-2 days that I can last. You know when to call it quits, right?
Yeah.
So the customer said, almost like boy coming, So I said, I've seen you outside, and I'm very surprised and very touched by your sincerity. I'm going to give you a chance. Now, what are you selling? What are you selling? So I gave him a quick pitch on my solution, how he can improve his brand protection. By the way, this is a branded liquor. I wouldn't mention the name, but branded liquor that's selling very high prices.
I see. Okay.
So subject to a lot of counterfeiting.
Yeah.
But I have a solution for it. Finally, they agreed to give me a chance, and that's how I got my first break. But of course, I was distributing someone else's products. I enjoyed the growth, I enjoyed the business for about 2 years. Before my UK principal, decide, there's a change of personnel, the people, the general manager then changed.
Yeah.
Decided that why do I need to give this margin to this reseller?
Yeah, correct.
For doing nothing.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
For doing nothing. So he decided that he would pay a visit to the branded liquor company and offer 10% cheaper by buying direct with the factory. Okay. So, of course, by now, this customer has become a friend, right? And he said, look, your principal did that to you. I'm very sorry, I cannot continue the business with you because if I were to continue business with your principal even to save 10% for my company, people will be wondering why I have always been paying 10% more. It's very hard to explain, right? It's hard to explain that you are giving that service, that kind of support. Whenever I call you, you are at my back and call. So, I'm sorry, I can't buy your product anymore. So it becomes a lose-lose thing. So the customer actually stopped the order. And so I was obviously very upset, very angry. Right? So that was the time when the principal came to look for me and said, hey, look, we want you to sell again, that means go through you again. That means, meaning that we won't go direct, we still sell through you. I thought it's too late. So that was the time after 2 years that I decided that I cannot just do reselling of products. I need to create my own products. I need to create my own fate. Right? So that's the time that I decided to go into manufacturing. And so obviously I do something that I'm familiar, I have experience on. And that's I decided to sell to this group of customer that will always be a good paymaster. So one problem about selling to customer in China is that you'll be able to sell a lot of things.
Yeah.
But the key thing is, can you collect them?
Correct. Yeah. The more you sell, actually, the worse it is.
The worst it is, you always get,
Yeah.
build up your so-called
And yeah.
receivable.
Correct.
So you have very bad experience. So I decided that if I were to create my own products and sell, I would sell to the banks. So the banks, they are stable. Of course, they are good paymasters. So that's what I did. So I started them to do cards. So you have the credit cards that you have in your wallet. So I used to do a lot of that, right? So that's how we started, and then we started to do Visa, Master, and in China, the China Union Pay.
Okay.
So we were supplying to not only just China, we were doing a lot for export and also for China. At one point, we were the 5th largest card manufacturer in the world. We make about 400 million cards every year.
That's interesting. We don't know about that.
Yeah?
Never advertise.
Well, I mean, you have your bank card, so
Right.
I've done most of the cards in Singapore.
Yeah.
So that's how I started with manufacturing.
Okay.
Yeah. And after that, again, in the career of your entrepreneurship, right? There's always this point when you decide that you have to make a certain decision. So my point of reflection actually comes in 2012. We were happy making cards and things like that. 2012, in the past, the cards in China has always been just extract, and they're subject to a lot of fraud. Not like today, you have the
Chip card, EMV.
make it very secure, but China was like that before 2012. So in 2012, the government finally decided that they will have their own version of chip, and 5 billion cards need to be changed to a chip-based card in 3 years.
Wow.
And there were only 11 card manufacturers at that point in time. So it was a very strange time for me, because that was the time that I learned. I mean, I don't need to go for business. People chase me for business because there are not enough capacity for us to create so many cards within 3 years. So the banks will come and say, hey, Lennon, can you give me 5 million cards? I will politely say, thank you very much. I will give you 500,000 cards. That kind of situation. So it was very strange, right? So, just everybody was just be calling me for this. So my peers at that point in time start to build more plants. They start to, increase their capacity 2 to 3 times and things like that. So this was the time that, of course, it was a very good time for us, very profitable, and basically you don't have to go after business.
Yeah.
So, but that was a time that I felt that I need to really make a decision. Do I increase my capacity, or do I pivot to something else? Because in China, if you look at any trend, right, if something become very popular, right, super popular, there's very soon enough overcapacity. Every field that you see, when a certain sector become very profitable, everybody
You're rushing.
and so we decided together with the management not to increase capacity, but to pivot to something else, something that will still supply to the banks, but something else. And so that's what we did. So you look at here. So in about 2013, we start to do all the all the banking automation and things like that. So the bank need to modernize. In the past, if you were to go into a Chinese bank, you wait about 1 hour before you get service because the queues are long, right? But with all these machines, auto lobby and things like that, the queue cut down tremendously. So we start to build all these machines and go into all the softwares and workflow automation to make sure that the banks modernize and do that. So it was a very interesting time for us. And then, of course, from there, we keep going back to understand what the customer needs, and we keep pivoting. And today, we are into digital payments, we're into all the so-called software and wallets and things like that that a modern bank will need, and modern financial institution.
Yeah, I see the way that you manage the technologies, right? Actually, I see a pattern, no? Because if you see, let's forget about 1984, right? 2006, 2013, right? You're talking about 12 years of transforming from biometrics to more to the processors, and then transforming to artificial intelligence half the time. So the technology is progressing so fast that you got to be very agile to know exactly what's coming, right? Because the next thing coming probably is not 6 years, it's 3 years.
Yeah, I think Prof is right. So technology I use the word, the life cycle of technology actually shortens very much. Last time, if you remember, we used to do 5-year plan. I think today, I think if you can do a 3-year plan properly, I think that's already very good. You're right, technology changes, the macro environment changes very quickly.
Right.
And I think we all need to work a lot harder right now to get the same path.
Yeah, but also it stress people, right? Like China has this, what's the culture? 99 what? 996. I nearly want to say 997. No, no Sunday. Yeah, but now people are like, okay, why am I working so hard, right? So they want to like, the concept is tamping, or I think tamping probably like do nothing, but I think the quick working is concept, right? Which is like do just enough to pass days, but that will impact the business, right? About staff now, especially in the technologically competitive industry.
Yes, I would say that I would say that the work culture. Being worked in 2 places before, the work culture in China is one that is. I think I can feel that employees are a lot more hungry.
Yeah, sure.
So they want to go for the reward or whatever bonus that you set. Once you set the bonus for them, they will go for it. And they also want to go after the promotion. So among you, there will be one person get promoted. I can see everyone. The kind of is very. People are very hungry, and they are also very vested in whatever they do. So I think I'm not sure whether this is good or bad, but this is the way I see it. Back in Singapore here, I see less, everybody is nice to each other.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
A lot less competition. I'm not sure whether it's good or bad, but this is just what I see.
Yeah, we like work-life balance. But I think even in the 80s, we are still like everybody is still competing, right? Yeah. Okay, carry on.
No, obviously today we do a lot of things different. Maybe I wouldn't bore you with the details. Now we are in the whole suite of product from fintech to digital ID. So each one of them evolve with the requirements of a digital bank. So as the bank evolve, we evolve.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we hope to do this day is to evolve faster than the bank.
Yeah.
So we can kind of lead some of this digitization or some of these processes, AI processes that we are ahead of what the bank does.
Right.
So just some of the things that we have done before. As early as 2016, if you look at the top right hand corner, with Alliance Bank. So Alliance Bank is one of the early adopters of digital bank, whereby they gotten the permission of the Bank Negara, which is the central bank. Alliance Bank is a Malaysian bank.
Yeah. Okay.
So it always starts with a problem statement. Okay? Alliance Bank is a small bank in Malaysia, so they don't have as many branches as a bank like maybe Maybank or CIB. So they want to compete differently. So they come to us and say, hey, we want to go into a certain sector. And this sector is, we have a lot of overseas workers, foreign workers in Malaysia. And a lot of them so-called send money every month, they send money back home.
Yeah.
But the problem is that some of these workers, they are in
Plantation.
they are in very far away places.
Right.
So they go to the branch, especially there are not many branches anymore.
Yeah.
Takes them a long time to go to a branch to enroll themselves. So some of these workers, what they do is that they use informal way of remitting money. So once I get my salary, the boss will give me a stack of cash, give it to me. I will keep some for myself. One stack I give it to we call it a money changer, a person. So I give you a record for me, and then you go send the money.
Okay. Yeah.
But a lot of times it happens, this person run away.
You collect a lot of money and then
A lot of
just.
money and run away. Because they are foreign workers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they get bullied, so to say. So Alliance Bank decided that we want to help these people. So we allow them to enroll. That means you don't need to come to my branch to open up an account. All you need is your work permit, and then when you open a bank account, you give your ID to the teller.
Look at you. You are who you are.
Who you are, open a bank.
Yeah.
Right? So we use the app
Okay.
to manage all these things. So this person just need to show the face, and then I will compare the face with the ID, and then we will then approve and let them open the account. And then now the boss need not give them cash; they just can put in the money, and then immediately they can use the app to remit the money. Everybody's happy, and it's also very cheap for the bank to serve this group of people. And after they adopt this technology, their remittance business went up 70%.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a good example, but this is way back in 2016, so they are one of the early adopters. So today, if you need to open up a digital bank, you need this kind of what we call KYC technology. And then we use some of the so-called wallet technology to go into modernized fleet of transportation. So a lot of countries, in this particular case is Philippines, the e-Jeepney. So the past president, President Duterte, actually he has this wish to reduce pollution. Because they are informal public transport is their jeepneys. Jeepneys are this Second World War leftover machine, jeeps.
Okay.
So behind they decorate the jeeps, and then what will happen is that people will go up, and then there will always be a conductor and a driver. So the conductor will remember where you come up and where you drop, and then you pay them cash.
Yeah.
So the problem with this is that number one, the vehicle is very polluting because it's old. These are old, so-called old vehicles, so they pollute. And plus, for the operators, how can they ensure that all this money is given back to the boss, right? So I collect all this money informally. And worse, sometimes the driver themselves actually siphon out petrol out of the sector. So they have a lot of management problems. So as part of modernization, they make this chimney into electric. And then they'll put all these so-called simple devices, which is what we call e-ticketing system. So now they don't need a conductor anymore. And the driver is no longer a driver. He is his own boss.
Okay.
So, for example, this chimney, one day the rental is $30 US, let's say, 30 or 40 US. Right? So every time someone went up, right, they'll tap the phone or the card. Tap, represent where you come up, and tap where you go down.
Okay.
So they will charge just like your buses, right?
Right.
So for that distance, they will deduct from the wallet. And that money goes back to the boss, the bus company who invests in all this machine. So after $40, the rest of the collection is yours. It's the drivers.
I see.
So that's
motivation.
How, motivation, and people work harder, and no pollution, you know. And because of this wallet, in Philippines, for example, there are about 40 million people that are unbanked. They don't have a bank account. So that wallet become a bank account for them. So for example, during COVID, when the government need to give some subsidy, instead of giving to the city, village, all these things, you know, money get pilferage along the way, it goes straight to the wallet, to the individual.
Okay. That's interesting. So let me see, our time is almost half an hour. So you have lots of solutions, examples, right? So we probably won't be able to go through, but it's all very innovative, very specific to a defined problem or a problem statement. So for innovation, we really need to understand the customer problem statements. Now, if you have questions, please get your questions in. We have another half an hour or 20 minutes before Lennon, we let him go. He just landed this afternoon. So let me just sort of sum it up, right? Because you started off in the MNCs, and then you decided to move on, go into representation, distributorship, right? Which is, obviously we understand that in distributorship, unless you lock in that sole distributorship, if you hit the targets for long term, there's always a danger that the principals will come direct. But then you have transformed, so make quite a lot of decisions, right? On actually, I think like inflection point, at a certain point, and I think one of the really important part is really how do you make decisions when we see the market starting to get saturated and move on, right? And it's very, very fast. Now, before I let the question comes in, right? So what makes you decided to help the manufacturers to become the president of Singapore Manufacturers Association, Federation?
Obviously, I'm very humbled that I got nominated to lead the Singapore Manufacturing Federation. So I think at some point, in life, you decided to give back. I think the society has given a lot to us when we were young. When we were young entrepreneurs, we got a lot of help from different so-called associations and things like that. So I think up to a certain extent, you want to give back, right? You want to give back. So this is one of my way of giving back, right? To help the small SME. SMF, Singapore Manufacturing Federation, have about 5,000 members, of which 90% of them are SMEs. Of course, some of the 10% are large companies like your HP, Dell, Rolls-Royce, and GLC like Singapore Technologies, Sembawang, and so on. So these are the big manufacturers. But there are many so-called SMEs who are, producing in Singapore, also maybe in nearby countries. facing different challenges, especially during COVID, right? So some of the things that we do for them was we waive membership fee. You need to pay a membership fee every year because we need to have a secretariat to support some activities. And during the COVID time, we should waive all the membership. So a lot of programs that come, we don't collect any fee. So basically, is how we help, and collectively we give some feedback to government, and then to shape the policy, also to get more help to certain group of manufacturers.
Okay, so couple of questions. The first one is like, there's always this notion that entrepreneur and everybody get sort of influenced by Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs. Oh, before you study or you finish study, immediately you become an entrepreneur, right? And you are working in a MNC before you become an entrepreneur. Which way you think is better? This is a pertinent question that students ask. Should I start immediately or should I go out and get an experience?
I think there's really no right or wrong answer. I think everybody's entrepreneurship journey is different. But I think one thing for sure, entrepreneurship is a marathon. It's not a 100-meter race. That's always what I remind myself. So whatever you do, you look more in terms of long term, right? So for example, if short term, in my point of reflection when I was discussing 2012, what I should really do is to quickly create another manufacturing plant to cash in.
Tap on. Yeah.
But then I will miss the chance completely to pivot.
Okay.
But because I think long term, I pivoted. Instead of just cashing in on the opportunity. So there's no right or wrong answer. I'll say that, in my opinion, it's good to have some experience first, simply because you could potentially avoid some of the pitfalls earlier. Because if you work for a company, whether it's MNC or even for SME in Singapore, you see how the different functions.
Yeah.
Because you know a business, there's always operation, finance, management, administration, and so on. So it's good to have a more overview, at least for a couple of years before you set up to do it. So that's just my opinion. Again, there's no right and wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one good way really is to work a couple of years, get your, at least you see what you learn and what in the real world is slightly different, how it works, and gather your network, gather your experience especially. But I think the way to compensate that, obviously, a lot of people say find a mentor, find an advisor who are the white hair, who provide the shop floor experience. You are the hardworking, you're 997, right? 9 to 9, work 7 days a week, and you have this great idea, you work on it, but you still need somebody to guide you along, right? So it's that complement experience. But I think one of the things that Lennon and SMF can bring along is that network or expertise. Join an association, don't cook up in your room and just work on by yourself, right? Then you have the network, right? And by possibilities and the help. Okay, there's another question here, rather long, but I'll just read it. As you grow your business into various technological fields, right? How you ensure that they are able to maintain competitiveness of each area? That means you have many areas. So I'm not sure whether you have many areas, but obviously you show that you have many products, the solutions. How do you ensure that you still being competitive in each product or services?
I think that's a very good question. I think if you look at the number of products that we have, it may seem that we have a large group of large array of products, but really they serve a financial institution, serve a specific targeted group of customers who you need to understand how they operate. So obviously there are products, for example, we have scaled down our manufacturing for cars right now because we don't use so many cars now, right? And also there are many manufacturers out there who can do the same thing. So you can no longer differentiate yourself very well. So you then de-emphasize and even exit from certain of your older businesses. So you must know when to, say, I now move on, and then the old business I need to stop. So that's one. So then you can focus your attention on the newer business where there are more demands. So this competition thing is, I think we of course we hope always to be the first mover. The first mover in a certain technology, certain field, always have an advantage, right? So people always remember who is the first person on the moon, right? Not the second. So being a first mover always has this advantage. So if we can predict the customer's requirement and be the first there to have the solution and invention for them, I think that will go a long way.
So when you decide to switch, it's easy to say that, oh, I analyze and switch. Is there a rule of thumb? So like, this is the 3 criteria. When I see this thing, I will switch. Do you have some framework?
My framework is being close to the customer.
Okay.
The customer will tell you, hey, what will be interesting will be if you have this. What will be, we are going this direction. So what will be interesting if you have a solution like this? They will tell you, right? They will tell you what they are. I mean, for example, if you are a handphone manufacturer, don't you need to know what your customer want to expect your next version, next model?
Yeah.
You need to understand.
Yeah.
So when you understand what the customer wants and deliver, right, you're always there. So similarly for my invention, we keep predicting, we keep understanding and predicting the need, and then keep improving, right, the products.
Okay, that's interesting. So I link back to more maybe a theory that we teach. So we always teach that customer centricity. Listen to the customers, right? So you talk to the customers, and you continue to, and customer always say better, faster, cheaper, which of course you deliver 10%. But in theory, right, when you say look at a technological revolution, there will be a paradigm shift, and that's why we always show a picture of the Model T, right, and versus a horse, and Henry Ford said, right, if you ask the customer during the horse carriage time, then they say, I want a faster horse. But you never think of the car or automotive. So there's a paradigm shift in terms of technology, because if we focus on customer cannot think of the future. So they keep telling you to improve whatever you're having now, and you miss the paradigm, like maybe the smartphone from the key phone, right? So how do you handle this?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to a question of choice. So if you want to be a so-called inventor that revolutionized a certain industry, right? You must go for a project or a invention that 9% will tell you, when you ask 10%, 9% will tell you it's crazy idea, stupid idea, right? And 1% thinks it's a good idea. Versus, if you want to be close to customer and then just keep going that way, I mean, there are different ways of being a business, right? Then it is 8%, 9% tell you, yeah, that's a good way, and you do that way, right? So, in all revolution, right, revolutionary products, 9% will tell you it's crazy. So you must, when you have an idea that you have such passion for, and 9% tell you it's crazy, maybe you have something.
Okay, if people say you're crazy, then you have something. Maybe the flying car is crazy. Yeah, so I think let's talk about you have built up a sort of strong market share in the banking sector, right? And you know that now is fintech era, and you have fintech solution, the mobile KYC and all these are all fintech solution. The issue is that, unfortunately, we teach a lot of people in fintech, blockchain and all kind. And that's so you see a flood, a few thousands of people, and fintech is relatively easy to code or whatever, you know. it's like a swarm, coming to compete with your business. How do you deal with this group of startups?
Sure. I will always advise this entrepreneur or all this, potential, all these very enthusiastic people who say that they have a great idea. Right? You just have to, what is your unique offer?
Yeah.
That you haven't seen it. What is your USP?
Yeah, correct.
If your USP is a very me too, then you have a me too. I mean, I'm not saying a me too solution wouldn't work. A me too solution, you want to improve the me too out there, right? So there are a lot of me toos out there, but your me too is better. Maybe you can grab some market share. But the real innovators will be the one that your USP, there's none out there. Or maybe there's only one out there, right? And they are not big yet. So in every market you can see consolidation, right? So very quickly you have an idea, and already in the market there are already a few that are very big, right? It's a lot more difficult for you to disrupt if your USP is not strong. Okay.
So, one question on government policy. Do you think that the current government policy of encouraging the startup and giving them grants are sufficient or too much? Too much drive into getting people to start, but and a lot of people just drop a lot along the way.
Well, honestly, I do not think that there are grants.
Yeah.
But if you ask me whether there are a lot of it, I honestly don't think so. There might be one to help you start your initial idea. That doesn't...
Not sufficient.
Doesn't bring you very far. So it really, maybe get somebody's idea to get some codes out, right? Maybe a concept out. So the person will have to use that concept to either continue to raise fund or get more people on board to do that. So I honestly do not think that there are a lot of grants out there that are so generous that everyone can tap on and start a very decent business from there.
Okay.
So I think there's encouragement, and I like to see this encouragement because I think everyone deserve a chance, right? If I always have this idea, I can start, right? And if it doesn't work out, I can go back to what I do best, what we do best. Maybe work for somebody else, and you would have fulfilled a mission in life.
Okay, so last question here. Students always say, okay, I may have learned this skill, I may spot an idea, but how do I recognize this is an opportunity that I'm going to spend 5 years of my lifetime working on it? Is there a certain criteria that you use or a framework?
Of course, the scientific way is market research.
Okay.
I mean, that's a scientific way.
Yeah.
Always encourage just people to do your research, right? So if you have some money to spend, if you have $10, maybe it's worthwhile to spend $3 to $4 to do a proper market research, because we tend to have very skewed opinion because you are passionate about something. You always feel that everyone else also are similar to you. So it's not crazy to spend a bit of money to do a proper market research, right? So that's one. Second is that, of course, the other thing is the gut feel. How do you explain gut feel, right? How do you explain Elon Musk's gut feel, right? That he can and want to do a reusable rocket, and start doing rocket as a service, so to say.
Yeah.
So this is this kind of passion. There's no logic. Everybody say it's crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But this gut feeling is so strong, it will drive you to make the impossible possible. So I mean, again, entrepreneurship is a marathon, right? You may fail initially. Your 100-meter dash you might fail, but 20-kilometer marathon, maybe you are ahead.
Okay, that's very interesting. I think we can get some, nuggets of, I won't say gold, diamond, right? More expensive than from Lennon, right? So entrepreneurship is not a 100-meter dash, right? Entrepreneurship is a 54-kilometer road march. And I would like to thank Lennon for coming to our show and also share the experience, and also that we go back long way, in the reservists, and he's my OC, I'm the soldier, so I have to end tonight by saying thank you, sir.
Thank you. Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.